Hi, and welcome to today's P2P workshop series. I'm happy to be here. My name is Eva Rugenschmidt, and I have with me my dear colleague, Mihalis, and we are today sharing with you our work on Odin, which is digital inclusion, and it's about digital inclusion in a pandemic situation. I'll hop right into this and say a word about ourselves. I'm a service and systems designer, and we are both living in Norway. And we have been working with the Odin project altogether 3.5 years. And this project is for the city of Oslo and the state of Norway. I'm currently taking a master's degree at the Oslo School of Architecture. And I met Mihalis at Oslo Metropolitan University. And Mihalis, do you want to say a word on yourself?
Yeah, I came to Norway to do my master, and during my practical training, which I did in Oslo Municipality, I had the luck and pleasure to meet Eva. So we got into this project together, and I had the luck also to do my master thesis on this project as well.
Yes, and right now we are none of us is longer working for Oslo Municipality and the Norwegian program, but we are really happy we can share this project with you, and it's going to be continued in a few months, so we are super excited how this is going on. And if you're wondering why we from Norway actually are a part of the series, that is because our Norwegian delegation was invited by Vicky to join and be introduced into what P2P is doing. And we heard a few lectures when we were able to travel with a Norwegian delegation to Canada, right when I started this position. Yes, and we have a bit of things on Canada and Norway. And Norway is often compared to Canada because of its northern latitude, focus on winter sports, and general happy lifestyle. So we hope we can bring some general happiness here tonight to you. And maybe some less superficial facts are that we have 5.5 million inhabitants in Norway, versus 30 over there at your side. Our capital has 600,000 inhabitants, but with the surroundings, I think it's 1.2 million, and that is not so different from Ottawa. When it's about the Norwegian welfare system, so I guess that is top notch, one of the best ones in the world. And we learned that Canada also has a quite generous welfare system, but really not the way we are used to it over here. And that could be seen as something not so positive. But when we came to visit Canada, we were just really, really amazed by what is happening if this is not in the system already included like it is in Norway. And we learned so much and just really traveled back highly inspired about everything that is happening in Canada. So we truly saw advantages of the way also you do that. We both have socialized healthcare systems, and in Norway, people with lower income are still better off because we're really good in equality, and also the lowest, like the money that you get per hour is quite high. So even if you're not having a super duper job, you can quite make a good living, but that has a cost, and that is, of course, everything is really expensive. Really nice to come to Canada with lower cost of living and also other prices we experience there. Yeah, that's just a little introduction, so you know where we are from. When we were working for the program of employability, that was we were working with the Oslo East Side project, and it is a result of this strategy. And it's been a part of the national action plans and Oslo municipality strategies for more than a decade. It's the largest economic city development plan in recent Norwegian history, with 1 billion Norwegian kroner. And you see what that equals in Canada. And it was started in 2007, and it's in its second round now. Since January 2017, the new Oslo East Side project is split into 3 programs, and that is on adolescence and education, on community, and on employability. And we too were a part of the employability program. And what is it good for? It is aiming that the Oslo East Side project shall contribute to permanent improvements to services and local community activities in the Groru Valley and to inner city districts where the needs are most urgent, so to ensure that these are becoming economically sustainable and its citizens become active members of the local and larger community. And that's how this program is organized. There is the board of directors and the secretary people. And then underneath that is there are the different districts that are members. And they all have their own administration. This is like what is called NAV here on the slide. That is standing for the Norwegian Labor and Welfare Administration. And they have units in every district. And every unit and district then has its own service developer. And I was lucky enough to be a service developer in one of the districts that are members. And then we also have the community supported adult education being a part of this program. And as we learned from what we heard when we were in Canada, and also now from the very inspiring workshops held the weeks before now, we have very similar challenges, and education for digital literacy and language definitely is a very basic part of what we have to work with on a daily basis to make newcomer families being able to adapt into our community. And so a little bit more about that. The Groru Valley, this is where the districts are located. It's in the eastern side of Oslo city. And there is the 4 districts called Alna, Bjerke, Groru, and Stovner. And then there's 2 more inner city districts that have the same challenges. So they have newly become a part of the program as well. And this is, we have 130,000, like a fifth of the total Oslo inhabitants that live in these areas. And more than 50% of the population in these districts have immigrant background. So, yep. And it's characterized by socioeconomic challenges, higher unemployment rates, lower education levels, and lower living standards relative to Oslo average. And the basis for the Norwegian government's decision to form development strategies to improve the standard of living in Oslo's eastern outskirts. Yes, so that is like our starting point. And Mihalis, you want to add something on the general immigration situation in Norway?
Well, that's just what you described in numbers, just to make it more clear. And Norway, it still has one of the best integration of newcomers, especially compared to US and Southern Europe. But still, there are quite a lot of difference between districts. Inside Oslo, one of the examples is that in the center of Oslo, one of the richest areas called Frogner, where all the architects and doctors were living, it has a 65% of the residents finishing higher education, and the same percentage in the Grur Valley is almost only 15%. So what the Norwegian government and the municipality of Oslo are trying to do is to reduce the gap between districts, which of course doesn't translate into violence or ghettos like other countries, but it still affects reputation and the psyche of the residents of those districts.
Yes, and here we have some more visuals and numbers on the situation here, and you see like our program is situated in the dark blue areas of Oslo city, and the dark blue areas are also the one with least education, both for women and men. And even though we're quite good in equality in Norway, still women have less education than men, and are even and we need even more support for women. So that was our starting point. As I said, and very concretely for our project, that meant that there were 60 families in one of the districts, the district of Grorud that we were working in, that used up a really high percentage of the overall budget for the district. And it is about all the social services and employment services that are supported by the state and the city of Oslo. And of course, that is a challenge. And even more, looking at the fact that they are in a downward spiral, so their situation is over a long time not getting any better. And we have not been able to improve the situation. So when I came into this position, my leader, that is the director of the labor and welfare administration in this district, she said, these 60 families need help. Do something, work with them, find out what we can do for them, and come up with something that has an effect. So that's a quite open challenge, and we were happy to have a good methodology that we could use on it. And Mihalis, you want to say a word?
Well, as we said earlier, we are both designers, service designers. In the last couple of years, system-oriented designers as well, having this having the chance to get into the course with the Oslo School of Architecture, where all the system-oriented design developed. And What we try to do is to, because we were about to work with a very complex system as the public system is, we try to integrate methods and methodologies, having as a basis the service design thinking process of systems thinking. And what that gives us is a human-centered design that the service design provides anyways, co-creation based. That means that we are the ambassadors of our clients, whomever this might be, our stakeholders. Is it the system itself? Is it the employees in the system? Or is it the families, the newcomers, the first generation immigrants, for example? So they will give us the solutions. They will give us the road that we have to follow ahead. We just provide the ground for them to express themselves and open up. And then we have a complexity integration, and that's very important because usually in such big and complex systems, complexity tend to be approached like an enemy, like something that has to be limited. Whereas in the system-oriented design, we welcome complexity. We try to integrate it in the design process and make sense out of it. And having that, it gives us an holistic approach, a bird's eye view, if you want, of the system, and having not having anything outside of the system, and make sure that everyone is inside, and so we approach the right solution in the end. And the fifth step, and it's one of the most difficult ones, and one that if you ask every designer, they will answer the same. It's how you ensure the continuity of the end result, of the solution, of the developed product in the end, of the policy, for example, that you may develop. And that's also part of the system thinking of how we're ensuring that our work will continue for the benefit of the community, of course.
Thank you. I just realized that if you have any questions while we are presenting, please don't mind writing in the Q&R that you find on your screen, so that we can afterwards answer them. So by the end of our presentation, we'll be happy to answer everything that you write up in the Q&R. Yes, and then I can continue to go and show you the design process. Like Michalis explained, and it goes in 5 steps. It's about defining the problem, and then there's like the phase between like the I and the errors. This is when we do research and when we collect insights, and we have focus on all the needs, and then we have the idea and concept phase, and then we have prototyping and testing. We hop into defining and redefining the problem, or for now it is more defining the problem and understanding really the needs of our newcomer families. And for doing that, we were using both quantitative and qualitative methods, observation, workshops, surveys on the quantitative side, and on the qualitative side, semi-structured interviews, also workshop, focus groups, and shadowing. And I'd like to add a word on, I'm always impressed when I listen to the workshops on the research part that you're presenting. And I just have a little thing to share here. Maybe it's useful in some way. When we're collecting insights, we try to be all transparent. As you see, this is like not typing something in the laptop on my lap. but it is like really being open on what we make notes of. So because still we are coming from the Norwegian labor and welfare administration, that the families also can be afraid of, because we are the ones that have the money that they might depend on, and we really want to watch out not to misuse these power relations and flatten them as much as possible. So that is also why you see me sitting on the sofa here at home at the family place. And that is where they tell us where to put our shoes when we come in. And we don't want to get them out of their comfort zone, but really trying to come into their world to understand their needs. Yes, that's how we do it as we do it. And maybe that is also a part of why the project became the one it became, because it was a lot of transparency, being open, and visuals. Mihalis, did I forget something on the research part?
No, as I said earlier, is they are the experts, and we will say that later on as well. As I said earlier, is we don't dictate what's going to happen. We have the tools to translate their needs into sustainable and human-centered solutions. So, yeah.
When we were done with our definition of the problem and all the, then we go into an analysis, and we sit with all the results from the interviews and everything that we found out, and we can redefine the challenge, and we see why these families are sitting there and not moving the way that both they and we would wish. And the low income is limiting them health challenges that come up because they are already in a bad situation and they're sitting and things are getting worse. Limited computer skills are a big challenge in a nation that is as digital as Norway is. Even if you have what is the correct word for the people that are sitting on the streets and asking for money? You transfer the money digital to them. So that's where we are. So if you're not good in digital literacy, this is really a big barrier, as well as language barriers. Unemployment is a barrier for your life situation, but it's also a barrier for being employed, as we all know. And this is a really big challenge because it's going into the social inheritance. That means that we have this 80% chance that the children of these families end up in the same situation as their parents, which really is a situation that we have to work with. Yes, and because we are in our program, we want to better their life situation. And we also see that it is difficult, especially in the Corona impacted work market. We found out that it's not that we have to push the family or the grown-ups in the family into jobs, but in 8 out of 10 families, there's at least one adult member that was highly motivated to join workforce. And that was actually different from what we had expected, because it is the Norwegian system and they get okay paid and cared for anyways. But nope, really 8 of them out of 10 really wish for work. And that also has to do with honor, especially our newcomer families, where that is a cultural thing that if you don't have work, you don't have honor, and you can definitely not go back to your home country either. So that was a situation that was actually very positive, that they really, really wanted to work, and more positive than we had expected. But then it is not unusual, also because of this generous Norwegian welfare system, maybe, that a family like this one, and this is a real case, they have, I think, altogether 26 different social services, including school and kindergarten and health station and the special services for the special needs of the children, and the adult language courses for the mother, and the welfare and labor administration's support for the father for getting into job. But this is also, like you see on this picture, families get overwhelmed with the complexity of the social system, and they're like drowning in deadlines and struggling with the limits of their abilities. This is a full-time job, what you can see here, just to manage. And then you have an addition that this is not their mother language, and they might not be as good in digital use. So this is really a big challenge. There was something else that was really interesting for us too. What is really the barrier for the social client is then the time that has already gone from when they were in job to where they are now. Because if somebody is out of work for months or even years, it is so difficult to get them back. Then literacy, challenging communication, and the lack of overview. So this is like not, you have to be a real good manager to manage the complexity that you see in the upper right corner. And the social system is really hard to understand, even for very competent people. And then it is even so much more difficult to understand for people with limitations. So it's, yeah. But on the other hand, you have on the right side, you have our social service employee. And we found out that except for literacy, they just have the same barriers. They're lacking overview. They think that communication is really challenging. And their time challenge, of course, is that they have way more clients than they actually have time to work for. So this picture was very similar, and we didn't expect that, but we were working, we were lucky to be situated together with our social workers. And so we had a daily contact and saw the way they were working, and by that got really far. Yes, so central insights were that we have to, that there's a significant imbalance between the claim of the social systems and the family's abilities. And we have to become more accessible. We have to become more predictable. We have to make communication easier. and also enable ownership. And that was what we were out for. Now there comes the idea and concept phase. And here we are having a plan on how to go about. This is our project guide. And the project guide is about the thinking design phases, and then the city's project tools and our design tools, and the practical outcomes, the design evidence and communication. And the last column is on communication and decision making. That is also like responsibilities. This is what we wanted to explore and deliver, and how.
So in order to get all the, after the initial research and through the initial, inside the initial research, of course, we get a lot of input, a lot of data, not only numbers and what the situation is in order to define our problem space, but also feedback on the problems and the needs and where we have to focus on, for example. But in order to make that clear for us, and in order to apply all the system oriented design approach and the co-creation approach as well, we developed several workshops with all the stakeholders. The first one was a workshop with 11 different public agencies. And I don't know if ever that happened before, before we actually make that happen. And it was the first time that public services for social welfare, from the police, from schools, from the health, came together, and we asked questions. What you can do for each other, what you can give to each other, what you need from each other, what's the barriers, what's the advantages, what the disadvantages. And we had probes that they had to work with, provide solutions, pain points, concepts, ideas, and they had to get on the same table and discuss. And that's what was lacking, the system was lacking at that point. Because you have to understand that working in the system doesn't mean that everybody knows everything about everyone. And it's quite the opposite. So we kickstarted the project, or the idea phase of the project, with this workshop, which was absolutely amazing. And then we followed up with several smaller ones, having in focus the NAV, the Social and Employment Administration of Norway, and the Adult Education Service. And where did these workshops gave us again a lot of input and a lot of data. I think we can move forward to giga mapping. Yeah, and the product, one of the products, but one of the most significant ones, was the giga mapping. So for those that are not familiar with giga mapping is a design artifact that is developed with certain methodologies in mind. And what it does, it takes the complexity of a system and visualize it in a certain way, a way that the designer choose. And the designer choose the way that will visualize this map. It depends on the needs of the product and the system. So you have different kind of relations here, dynamic relations between services, relations between stakeholders. So what we did here is we visualized the system of the Norwegian labor and welfare system, and that you can see on the up center of the map, on the left with all the different silos, and on the right it's the adult education system. And from these instances of the system, channel of communications emerge, and they reach on the top of the map, which is our clients. So the reason we do that is that we want to give our clients the center position in our system. And also they sit in a different platform. That means that they don't see what it's underneath that. They only see the result of their interaction, which is the mail they get, the phone call they get. So they don't know the complexity, and they don't have to know the complexity. Through this map, we nudge, we make clear how the system is structured, and having the silos inside the system. It was very important to show that. So having this artifact, what we did in the upper part of the map is we did another analysis, and of course this is made out of the research, as I said. And you get this map, you go around, you do workshops, and it's an amazing thing because it's the first time that stakeholders see themselves in the system visualized. Up until then, everybody has their own misconception, if you want, of how the system works, and only have a certain part mapped in their head. Only they see their perspective. So it's the first time they see themselves inside the whole system holistically, and it was an amazing to work with, to do all these workshops. And we used this map as a probe for them to come around from different services and discuss why this is happening and what's the different relationships going through from each other, how they can make that better. And through this analysis and different other methods, like zip analysis, that stands from zooming in an area, different ideas you can get through the map, and problem areas, different areas that you know from the research and from the input from the stakeholders, that these are certain problem areas. You get in the second part of the map, that is the concepts. So the GigaMap is all of it. It's the holistic visualization of the system, and then what concepts and solutions we might get out of it, based, of course, on the very center line that it's the needs of our clients.
And you might want to continue sharing our prototyping phase.
Yeah, absolutely. So as one can imagine, there are a lot of ideas coming out of this process. And in the other day, we have to make something that is had to be prototyped, had to be developed, give it for a test, and as everyone, make our leaders see that this is working. So we ended the whole process with an MVP workshop that stands for minimum viable product. That means that what is the most important concepts and ideas, the 5 more important concepts or ideas that we can get through this, from this, and make a prototype, make a product that can work, and give the perception of a solution on how we can get forward. So we started with a very low-level prototyping, being like hands-on and trying to understand. We use that as a probe as well in different workshops. And then we follow up the UX design methodology, going into wireframes, and the wireframes became a dummy app. If you want to go through the next slide, with a low level like design, we get that just a basic UI, the user interface, I mean, just to have our focus into usability and all these different concepts that we had in mind. So the concepts were one, giving overview of the system, that we established that was a very, very important thing. It was communication, so how we not only see each other, but communicate together. It was a registration. So how our newcomers with these low digital skills can register themselves in a very easy and fun way. And also it was a meeting function for our employees. That was another pain point in order to meet for those families from 20 plus public services. It's very, very time consuming and sometimes almost impossible. So that was like one of the main concepts that we integrated in the first low-level prototype. And then we moved into testing.
And I just want to hop back because there was another surprise in this for us. We started so simple with like just making a sketch when trying to make the newcomer family understand their own situation. It's very much is about their own situational understanding. And then taking this on to something so simple that they could just take out, and it was more like a board game. And we still, by that point of time, did not consider doing a digital solution. We thought more about maybe a service or something, a program, not a digital solution for our user group. Because our user group is like these families, and especially the women that say, I need a what is that, like a translator when we have a meeting. I cannot speak Norwegian, they say, and I cannot use a computer, they say. So this was really not what we had planned, but in the process, it came out that this is what they needed. So we had just to not adjust the users, what we tried before, with language schools and whatever, to lift. We still, of course, do that, but we have to adjust the now situation of our newcomer families to that they can fit in our system. So we have to do something with our system and not with the families if we want to help them now. And give them also the feeling that they manage, and give them responsibility and engage them. And Mihalis, you want to go on with testing, which is like the next and last step in our design process. Okay.
Yeah.
This is more a Norwegian lesson than an English slide. This is my phone. I'm really sorry.
So here is the iteration, because as you can see, the design thinking model, if you will, that we saw until now it's a circle. So it's not ending. You have to go again and again, because you reach testing, and then from there you learn even more, and then you redefine some things, and you prototype again, and then you do it again one more time in order to ensure that your product is fulfilling all the needs, solving the problem, and ensuring continuity, as we said earlier. So a little more like technical stuff about the user testing. From the whole approach from the beginning, as Eva mentioned, what we try to do is we try to create a mutually supportive environment. That means that the way we do the testing, the way we do it, the research is giving the proper title to our clients, and it's the title of the experts. You are the expert. So it's during the testing, we said, like, we're not here to test your knowledge about something or your digital skills or whatever. You're here to give us like your knowledge in order to test our perception of your needs and if our design decisions are on the right path. So we conducted moderated usability feedback sessions based on the 3 user case scenarios that the user case scenarios were around the 5 concepts that I mentioned earlier: registration, meeting, seeing an overview of your situation, etc. We use the think aloud approach. That means that we encouraged our clients to speak while they're testing our app, our platform. So we can record how they feel while they're doing that, and while they're interacting with the product in more technical terms as well. And then we had the questionnaire separated, categorized in 3 groups. Groups of the questions about perceived utility. That means of how the platform affect or would affect their daily routine. Questions about days of use, how they felt about the interaction with the platform. That goes into more UX and more design. And we had to see that in order to understand that we accommodating their level of digital skills, of course. And then questions about technical elements of the platform. And then also they had the opportunity to write freely 3 things that they thought that the platform is good at, and 3 things that they would improve. So combined all together, the think aloud and the open-ended questions about improving and what they thought it was good. What we got was that in terms of personalization, users found that the registration and the opportunity to build their own services were useful and empowering. So the users in this platform, they start from a blank page and they make their own registration, and they build their system around them. So that they thought it was empowering. That was very, very, very important. In terms of self-motivation, we had to visualize, the platform is visualized. So that's a big step for the interaction with the public system. And they thought that was positive. And one of our users also did the whole testing again because he thought it was fun. So we managed to provide something that motivates, changes habits, and engaging people. In terms of ownership, which is very, very important, people they felt that they could master their situation. Because you have to understand, as I've described earlier, when you have a lot of public services, a lot of instances around you, it's almost impossible to make sense and to make sense out of them. Having almost only as a interaction, a mail, a conversation, a message, and traditional means of communication like that. So giving an overview in a platform and giving everything on one page, it was mind-blowing. Co-creation happened because what we gave the platform itself derived from their needs, from the research and the workshops. And they found again that the overview page, the overview function, it was what the system was liking for everyone, for our newcomers and for our employees as well.
And then what really was an eye-opener for us in the end, that was like the when we had the workshops with the youngsters. And we, as you can see here on our prototype, Mihalis made a gamer skin, like something that you can take over because it's the same system, but to adapt it to something that young people would find attractive to actually open and use. And we had also some conversations with sociologists. Norway's most well-known sociologist said that this tool should every youngster get in the end of high school when they become 18 and they start taking responsibility and have to have overview over their own things they're responsible for. So that was, we did not do that for the families, but when you working with the families and they have youngsters, we came to that and came to the next generation, Odin. Really exciting in the process. So we are actually here where we redefine also our user group. And that is the platform, how it looks like, how we want it to be. Not only that it is an overview, but it's connected to all different underlying services. And they can be state services, they can be community services, and they can be non-community, or they can be just from other organizations that work with our newcomer families. So it's shared, because for our newcomer families, it's the same, whether it's a governmental or community thing or whatever. So we have to put this in one place for them to make sense. And what we end up with, that is something that we wish we could start registering in our social services, just with a blank page. And what if it was so easy for Sarah just to register her, even though she's not on a language and digital level that she wished to be. And then she could register her family, because after all, it's her who knows best about her family. And then she could start seeing all the areas around her and her families that make her daily life, like health, education, and work and economy, as well as family and housing. And then every time she would meet a social worker or a teacher or whoever, they could put in what she needs in that area. And after some time, she has a really good overview of her situation and her family that she's responsible for. And by that, she's doing that in her own speed. She's not starting with having to do that all at once. And she can find her contact people and her contact network. And the people that she wants to have and open up the door to communication, that she can assign herself via digital identification. So she can contact her family social worker, Stine, that easily, and communicate with her and see her whole network. And not only she can do that, but it'd be the same and as easy also for Stine to use the same tool. And then this sounds very much like it's about a digital tool, but really what we think it is about, it is a paradigm shift in public co-working culture with social welfare clients. And for us, this is really about enabling language, digital literacy, social system understanding is so basic, especially in a situation where a family is dependent on these institutions and people, and really don't know how it works. Ownership. A personal belonging with the option to filter information and open direct doors to my welfare agents and community services. Because if I'm responsible, I should be the one who can open and even close doors again. Power relations and co-working. I think this is about repositioning existing norms in how we are used to work together with these institutions. And personalization, taking account what is relevant for me and my loved ones. Because this is my family, it is my tool. And Mihalis, if you would have one, it would look different from mine. And
Absolutely.
also kind of funny in the end when we were working with the final prototype with our social workers in the district. They said, like, I would like to have one like that for managing my family and my daily situation and my relations, because we all are connected to the social system at some point. Is it's entering kindergarten or have a permission time, or you get injured. It's like we all need it. So it should not be something that is stigmatizing for a certain group at all. Yes, I think we are through with everything that we're happy to be able to share with you and go over to the Q&A. I'll have a look at something in here. Okay, my question is with respect to funding. In particular, do you see the immigrants and participating in funding decisions in the future? What services are available?
Funding independent, funding on the projects that happening in their district, you mean? Or funding in personal level, like what X public service decides that this family needs funding for in the district. I think that's happening, maybe. So the question is, for example, we have the funding for the area boost, a certain amount of money, and Odin is one of the projects that they got funding to work in this area. So the question is, like, immigrants have a saying on what projects are getting funding for their area, for example.
I think it's an interesting thought that did not come to me before. We have, it's the municipality of Oslo and our state agency that is deciding what projects get funded and how much money we get for projects like Odin. But we also have to bring the research results that show that our projects have effect, so that we actually get the money and can continue. So we're really happy that we now heard that there's another 4.5 million into krona going into this project, because it has shown the effect. It has shown that it has shown in the piloting phase.
But in general, even if it's not direct, and I think it's gonna be difficult to be direct in any case, there are several local organizations, like there are volunteer centers in every district. These are very, very important for the community. And also there is what we call in Norway an open church. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, the church is providing for everyone. And there is a project, for example, that calls the Mothers of the District, which was a project that the newcomers will be helped by immigrants that had some time already in Norway, and especially women will help each other from the knowledge they already had. So through these organizations, local organizations, the word and the needs are coming to the local administration, and social workers will get projects based on that, because in the end of the day, we do it for the residents. There's nothing like we can't do a project that is not based on the needs of the district. So Odin, for example, it may be got as an idea inside the administration, the NAV administration, but that came from the very basic realization that people need that. I think I will answer first to one of the questions in the chat, what platform it's built on. So in technical terms, the first low-level prototype was made in Vision Studio, and then we changed into, for the second more complicated prototype, we changed into Adobe XD for the prototypes, and then we collaborated with a development company that they built a web-based prototype for our testing, and we use both the Adobe XD prototype and the web-based one. Then if you want to ask about the future of the platform and how it will be developed, that's another story, because this platform probably will be on the top of other programs and be used on the top as a platform, and that's quite technical, and frankly that needs a lot of research to see how it's going to be. But now it can be used as a communication tool on its own as well.
And how will we test this project in the future in terms of outcomes? In other words, how will we be measuring outcomes of the project in the future? That we have to do by long-term surveys. We have to measure the family's interaction with the tool at all. That's how it is starting. Like, do our newcomer families actually use the tool as much as they were saying now in the first surveys? How often do they use it, and how often does the usage of the tool help them in their situation? And of course, we have to measure how that is changing also the relation between the social workers and the newcomer families that do what we have experienced so far with this early prototype, that they're getting closer because it is easier to communicate. They actually feel closer, have built more trust, and also get better help by the social workers, because getting an appointment is not such a big thing. It is just like a short communication, and you can react or do something upon that, which made a big difference. And I think we have to have quite of a list of indicators that the tool is doing good to the families. And actually, I'm really excited to see whether the tool is solving what we made it for, or actually solving maybe other things on the side, like we saw, like with the youth, that it was not primarily planned for, that felt very, very comfortable about having that, and going to like our state institutions is stigmatizing and really uncool. But using a tool like that could be could make a different situation. Yeah, here comes a question. Are there age or gender differences in use of the tool? So now I don't know yet whether you mean the way the tool has been used in its early pilot phase with the prototype, or whether we expect the different differences in the use of the tool. What we had more women in our testing group, because they were the ones that were more available for us, most available for us in the families, and they were also the ones that were least hesitant to come and work with us, especially the ones that are that have low language skills. And so we might not have an even image or an even representation of that yet. That is to be tested. And I can say something else concerning age. We cannot open the tool for youngsters under the age of 16. That's the border in Norway. Then we would need a grown-up person to use the tool with somebody under the age of 16 to be conform with our laws. But we also have discussed with our youngsters in the workshops that and also with the family that you have a family tool that a grown-up in the family can use for the ones that one has responsibility for, like for the children and so on. It might even be a grandmother or a grandfather that you can integrate into the tool. By the age of 16, a younger user is going over into being able to have his own tool. Then you're grayed out, you're still there for the family, but the mother cannot do your communication any longer, or not lead it. Then you're on your own to communicate via the tool, so that we have also the privacy of the younger users ensured with the tool. To what extent do you rely on images and emojis? In other words, do you see symbols as the neutral language for low-level literacy? Do you have a comparison line to see the improvement in digital literacy in longer terms? Do you have digital literacy tests for users? We have to say that when we tested our tool, I'm not sure whether the language levels are the same in all countries. For us, it is like if you're below A2, then you can have somebody to translate when you come to a social worker and so on. And we had users with only A1 language level that actually handled the tool from the beginning to the end. And now I have to think about the right number of tested users on the tool. I think it was around 12. Correct me, Mihalis, if I'm wrong. And we did not expect everybody to handle the tool because of low digital and literacy and low language skills. Everybody who was into testing with us managed to actually do that and even grow into the complexity of the system afterwards. So that was quite surprising for us. Emojis that we can say helped. We had some test rounds with the ladies in the language course next to our project room. And they really liked having and doing memojis when I can choose my skin color and my hair color and kind of how I look like to identify. So that was also another interesting thing that we tested, and we thought, do we have to stay very neutral and stay a bit away from too much gimmicky stuff on the tool? But they really liked it. And
But that was quite explorative for us to answer your in more technical terms, because UI you see needs another like a level of development and research, etc. So we tried to avoid that in a way, because we need to focus on the MVP, and that was our goal, and that would take our tool further. But we set up like a minimum level of visualization that will make the tool engaging, sort of speak, and exploring also ourselves what you're asking, how would that work, and also we saw at testing, like we tried to count the I don't remember the technical term, but how many times a user would reach our objective. So for example, register yourself. Okay, how many turns, how many iterations for this person would need? So in the end, to figure out the learning curve and see how this would go. But that, again, that was quite explorative.
And I get a sign here that it really is time to close. Then I'd love to say that we're really honored to have had a chance to share this with you, and we hope it was informative, useful, and maybe inspiring to see the way we work with it. We are already looking forward to see the next workshops in this series. We think it's really inspiring, and of course, with so much good research done, this is also something that we really want to take into the next level of our development. Thank you so much for having
Thank
us
you.
today.